Rain, cold pavement, a man on his knees, blood on his suit, 3 men around him, guns raised, silence thick like fog. One of them whispers a name, John Wick, and suddenly, no one breathes, because every man in that room knows one thing. You don't fight John Wick, you survive him, not because he is stronger, not because he is bigger, but because he is something far more dangerous. He is a man built entirely on habits, every movement precise, every reaction automatic. Reload, step, shoot. No hesitation, no confusion, just repetition. But here is the terrifying truth. John Wick was not born that way. No one is. Long before he became the most feared assassin in the underworld, his life was shaped by something deeper. Pain, loss, and the kind of psychological conditioning that turns ordinary behavior into unstoppable patterns. Psychologists call this habit formation. In the book, The Power of Habit, journalist Charles Duhigg explains that almost 40% of what humans do every day is not a conscious decision. It is habit, automatic behavior, stored deep inside the brain. Scientists discovered that habits are controlled by a structure called the basal ganglia, the part of the brain responsible for routine actions and learned behaviors. Once a behavior repeats enough times, the brain stops thinking about it. It simply runs the program. That is why soldiers train thousands of times, why fighters repeat the same movement endlessly, and why someone like John Wick could walk into a room of armed men and react faster than thought, because habits remove hesitation. But the same system that creates mastery also creates addiction. The brain builds habits using something psychologists call the habit loop, a cue, a routine, a reward. This model became famous after research highlighted in The Power of Habit and studies by institutions like Massachusetts Institute of Technology. First comes the cue, a signal that tells the brain to switch into automatic mode. Stress, loneliness, boredom. Then comes the routine, the action itself, smoking, scrolling, drinking, avoiding work, and finally the reward, relief, pleasure, escape. Once the brain links these 3 elements together, the loop becomes powerful. So powerful that the brain begins craving the reward before the behavior even starts. Researchers found that dopamine, the brain's motivation chemical, spikes when people anticipate rewards, not just when they receive them. This discovery was discussed in neuroscience research at Johns Hopkins University, which means something dangerous happens. The brain starts predicting pleasure, and when the cue appears, the craving explodes. This is why bad habits feel impossible to break, not because people lack discipline, but because their brain is running a loop. Now imagine the difference between an ordinary person and someone like John Wick. Most people build habits unconsciously. Wick built them intentionally. In the world of assassins shown in the film John Wick, survival depends on speed, precision, and control. That kind of ability cannot exist without brutal repetition. Thousands of hours, training the same motion again and again, reloading a weapon until the body remembers it without thinking, scanning rooms automatically, controlling breathing under extreme stress. These are not talents. They are neurological patterns, habits carved into the brain. In fact, action choreographers behind John Wick have explained that actor Keanu Reeves trained for months in tactical gun handling and martial arts to make the movements realistic. The goal was simple: make every movement look automatic, because that is what true mastery looks like. The body reacting before the brain finishes the thought. But here's where the psychology becomes even more interesting. Habits cannot be erased. This is one of the most important discoveries explained by Charles Duhigg. The brain never fully deletes a habit. It only replaces it. The cue remains. The reward remains. Only the routine can change. This is called the golden rule of habit change. For example, someone who smokes when stressed may not actually crave nicotine. They crave relief. If that same cue, stress, triggers a different routine, like exercise or breathing, the reward can still happen, and the loop slowly rewires itself. This principle is why military training, athletic coaching, and behavioral therapy all focus on repetition, because repetition rewires the brain. The same neurological system that traps people in addiction is the same system that creates discipline. And that brings us back to John Wick. His legend in the assassin world was not built from anger. It was built from systems, controlled breathing, precise movement, relentless training, pain becoming routine, loss becoming fuel. The man who once tried to escape violence was dragged back into it by tragedy. But instead of breaking, he returned to the habits that once made him unstoppable. That is the deeper psychological lesson hidden inside the story. Most people try to break habits with motivation, but motivation fades, habits remain. Your brain is not designed for sudden transformation. It is designed for repetition, which means your future is not decided by one big decision. It is decided by thousands of small automatic ones. And the difference between chaos and control is who designs those repetitions, because the brain will always build habits. The only question is this: will those habits destroy you or make you unstoppable?